Let's record a show for you and me. Let's record.
Welcome to Everyone Racers,
A show designed for the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture.
It doesn't matter what kind of limit champ or lucky track dog league you run.
SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate.
as long as you drive it hard and built it yourself.
Join us each week for tech discussions, tips,
tricks, as well as news and notes from the world of amateur endurance racing.
And whether it's on the spot, hella sweet, or we're lucky enough, and Chrissy,
and I give you just the tip.
We're sure you'll giggle a little and learn even less.
Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
And I'm Mental. And welcome to a pie episode of our podcast. It's episode 314. That's it.
So, duh. What else?
Yeah.
Do you not have anything to talk to me about pie? You can't, there's nothing to tell me?
Pie.
Oh, besides that.
Delicious.
Not that kind of pie.
It's not delicious.
I had a pair of kids who used to see how far they could get pie on my whiteboard when I was teaching.
That's fun. I was hoping to have the history of pie or something like that.
I know.
Not everyone geometry.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
The like that super nerd who hosts The Wall, Chris, what's his name? He can recite pi to 100 places.
That's a lot.
And why fill your brain with that much? I'd rather learn some.
I've been bored, but I've never been learn pi to 100 places board. I've never been beyond 3.14159 board because that was all you really need.
I don't even think it's a question of boredom. It's a question of capacity, and I just don't have it.
Agreed.
No, neither do I.
Or want. Some of it's want.
Yep.
I mean, it might be like a fun, I was going to say bar joke, but chances are you can't remember past 50 numbers.
Hey
and
guys,
you
want to hear this? 3.1415912.
Right. So you could just keep doing this and I'd be like,
I feel like that's a bar I don't want to go to.
right.
Exactly.
Or no, I meant like a funny party trick is what I was implying. But also there are probably not that many people that know the right numbers. So you probably could just spout off most numbers and nobody would really know.
Guy's hilarious at dinner parties, though, I'm sure.
That's what I just said. I meant not the bar, at parties. Chris, why don't you just speak for both of us what we've been doing, because we've been doing the same thing.
We've been working on the porch, this project that just won't ever.
Not a porch, it's a Ferrari. Sorry.
I know, I wish. Yeah. Most of the siding is most of the way up at this point. Trim is up. Some of it's painted. Yeah.
Well, the big thing is we had a dinner party. So I insisted on having family over.
You didn't recite pi.
I did not recite pi. I had a dinner
it's a great
party
way to get people to leave, though. I have to remember that one.
So that made us finish faster and then clean it. So it's lovely. We've been eating on the porch that Chris really
and now I have
made.
to make it dirty and make it worse again.
That's okay.
To make it better again.
That's no problem. We're getting there. It's definitely, we knew there was a scope creep, a lot of scope creep. So I'll even take some of that, but it's really nice to have great double doors. The double doors open out. So it's really nice space. And we have a new screen door. It looks like a new place. So I feel like you're downplaying all of the sadness that this project has brought onto you.
I'm just frustrated. I'm done with it. I just don't want to do that project anymore. I want to do a different one, but I can't stop. And now that it's getting dark early, I've got an hour and change at night. Otherwise, I'm working on a headlamp, which is great.
But you have can't you throw some shop lights out there or something?
Sure, but whatever. When I'm on the porch itself, it's fine. But when I'm outside on a step ladder,
in the backyard.
Okay, there it is. All right, yeah. I was thinking you're just on the porch itself doing the whole thing.
No, that's got wonderful.
We did. He's done all that project. Now it's the outside that need new panels. So that's the problem. That's why he's standing outside. Okay, that was Saturday. What else we do?
Went out on the boat. Yay! It was 80 degrees, and we put the boat in the lake. That was completely necessary and great to just take a boat nap and read a book and relax. It's wonderful. Watch the Eagles game on the boat, which
I did watch the Eagles game.
Hello, 21st century. We can do that now.
in overtime on the iPad, then that died. And then I tried to watch it on my phone and that died after the
The
game.
iPad
But
didn't die, it's just you ran out of your free preview of Fox Sports to
no,
watch it.
I brought
That's what
that
it
back.
was.
Oh, well, then I switched to my phone
Yeah.
because that had the
Yes.
login correct. Yeah, you're right. Whatever.
Anyway.
I used all of the internets all in the middle of the lake so I could watch the games. That's the thing. It was nice. Mental, you've done something just much more interesting than us. What have you been up to?
I was judging at the butt. Actually,
Oh, was
judging
it?
the butt. Judging the butt. It was good. It was round.
Okay.
A little hot, a little dusty. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
always.
At
If
that
it wasn't, it'd
location-
be weird.
Yeah.
Actually, the weather
We've been there
really
freezing,
was.
too.
Yeah. The
Oh, you're
weather
right.
was actually really nice. I mean, it was warm but not miserable. We did have a windstorm kind of kick up on Saturday. Just a little bit of rain, like the middle of the day Saturday, just enough to make windshields, like suddenly people realize how dirty their windshields were. And
Yeah, you have like mud.
No, it didn't quite get there. So then we had
Okay.
like a flock of people come in because they
Sure
drove
you
off the
did.
track.
I'm sure you did.
Mhm.
And then Sunday was actually very pretty. Kind of, a little overcast just to keep the temperatures down. All in all, a good time, good people.
Sounds lovely.
Yes.
Better than average weather for the butt.
It
That's good.
really, like a lot of people were remarking about that. Yes, it
No
was.
fires. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
no.
the last time, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, exactly. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fire.
You still we'd had one little dirt devil kind of come through the tech area, but that was about
And
it.
shield your eyes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dust. The place is so flat. It's like a little hard to know where you are on track.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no flowers, there's no trees. It's not like turn at the tree or, use this as your apex or where you should like your. Oh, actually that's not true. There are trees. I used to use those trees at the far corner right before the like hairpin type thing at the end.
Oh yeah, the ones that they line the kind of paddock area.
Yeah. That was over there.
by
Yeah.
the RV area. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Mhm.
I did note those trees. But other than that, there's not much around.
No, not at all.
So we'll talk about that in a little bit, right?
We
We're going to
will.
talk. Okay,
Yes,
great.
hopefully,
Let's
yes.
move on to Finder's time.
Start that America playlist on Spotify. Because Jonathan Noble over at motorsports.com tells us that after months of delay, the FIA has approved the Andretti bid for a Formula One team. Now, they're not there yet. They still have to get approval from the commercial enterprise of Formula One. So while the FIA is happy with the Andretti bid and believes that it fulfills all the criteria that they laid down, it does not mean the Andretti squad automatically gets a place on the grid. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali has been very consistent that any
Hello?
new outfit would need to bring
Hello?
a clear. Seriously?
Hi.
All right. Well, you guys are froze, but
Is
I
it
can
our
hear
turn
you.
yet?
I don't know yet.
No.
I know.
Okay.
All
right.
Oh, here it comes back.
Hi.
Let's see how this works. Maybe you can. In the meantime, I'm just going to go on with my story. Or no,
Well,
maybe not.
leave your video. You're on mute. So there you go. There we go.
Now you're fine. You're back.
Are you
Great.
here?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You want to pick up?
Are you
recording
staying
again?
here?
Well, just because, they said they want to make sure that any new F1 team brings a value to that. I would say Andretti, by the virtue of the flippant fact that they're Andretti, brings value. But you go right ahead there, Stefano. See how that works out for you. But Andretti Cadillac is ready, prepared, and moved on to that. And the other teams are just going to have to suck it up because they're coming.
I hope so. I think it's going to be tough, though. I hope. I don't know what kind of backroom shenanigan deals and how many
So
DJs
much.
they're going to have to be
And
to get
the
this all
the
right.
bajillions of dollars that they're just shelling out and just saying like, do you want this more money? This more money? More money?
Well, and it's, the Andrettis have the billions of dollars. And
Sure.
let's take a tally. If the Andrettis were on the grid, let's take a tally of how many teams that are owned by former Formula One champions. Oh, that would be one. Yeah. So let Mario do it, man.
Yeah.
Link
The
to
grid
that
isn't-
is in our show notes.
How
The
do you
grid isn't
really
full.
feel?
Back in the day, you had to qualify for the race because there were so many teams that some people just didn't make it. So that's part of the history too.
That would be interesting. That would add some back runners and
the bottom of the elimination is you're sitting, you're watching tomorrow.
you wouldn't just always be in 20th place, which is how some of the teams end up being.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize.
Well, to keep going.
Yes.
Do you want a CRX?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much everybody would like a CRX. Isn't that nice? How about 35? Yeah. Colin Wood at GRM wants to help you out, but it's probably too late. There's a collection of cars in Arizona that has sold, but 60 grand for at least 25 running CRXs and 10 spares. Link in the article to the Facebook ad if you really want to see. Wow. It's sad glimpse into Mental's future, but not anymore because Mental is reformed.
Mental is
nice.
Reformed.
He's
reforming
for the moment. Yep. But in general, if anywhere to
that.
find CRX is Arizona. Like all the wheel arches are still intact. It's amazing.
And it's like not even all enclosed, I don't think.
No, but it's Arizona. It doesn't matter.
I
Just having a
guess.
roof over it keeps the interior from getting sunbaked. And
Yeah.
Worst problem you're
Wow.
going to have there is critters, probably.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, but those are like
Critters-
lizards. Lizards
Yeah,
don't eat
there's-
wiring.
There's
Don't they
rats
have-
in the desert.
I feel like they probably have some squirrely type guys. Okay.
Anyway, you know what's a lot worse than 35 CRXs in the desert?
This picture, this ad, there you go. Well, it's a lot worse because CRXs in the desert is a fun idea. This is not great. So here's a preview. We're going to talk about learning to drive on this show. And if you have somebody who's learning to drive, why not check out Racing Junk? Here is a terribly written ad for a Nissan Sentra. It's a 2002. It has 22,000 miles on it.
No.
And
220.
I'm sorry, 220,000 miles. I'm looking at the number and said it wrong. And they cannot seem to take a picture. You only have one picture. They don't have the Racing Junk Pro membership. They have one picture of the rear quarter. I wonder what the front looks like. Oh my
No
gosh.
idea.
It may just be smashed in. It might be one half a car, but
We've
you
got
don't
half a
know
bumper,
till you try. So
third of a deck lid. We've got 2/3
Lot
of
of-
a quarter panel,
We-
2/3 of a rear door.
What kind
I
of
would argue
tires on it?
45% of this picture is lawn.
Yep. And it's been sitting in that position on the lawn for some time, but not an extraordinary amount of time based on
the grass hasn't grown completely up and
Yeah.
over the wheels, so I think
Yep.
it's okay. This car is only $1,500, so if you have somebody who is completely desperate, buy another car. But you can go to Racing Junk and find all kinds of other fun things. But you should probably just get that Racing Junk Pro membership because you can have more pictures. You can see things firsthand. Get them earlier. You can get up all kinds of ads. Code POD23. I have no idea if that still works, but hopefully it does. If you're looking to get it to work right now,
Probably.
Racing Junk, full of fun.
Great.
Okay.
You know what else is a
Oh.
great deal?
What?
A 84 Corvette. With the
Yes.
crossfire
Yes, it
injection, the
is.
Doug Nash 4+3 and the Z51 suspension with only 46,000 miles.
Where
time
can I
this
buy
airs
this lovely
on
car?
Haggerty. It'll only be 4.5 days left. Oh, there's another new bid. Oh, it's up from last time I
Yay!
looked at it. It is at $3,100. It's got 6
Yay!
days left. It ends on Tuesday, October 10th at 3:50 Eastern time. Who's the high bidder, Matt? Let's scroll down a little bit. Is it still Larry C?
It shouldn't
Where'd it
be.
go? All right.
That right side doesn't
Yeah, it's
scroll down. with it.
Scroll.
Anyway,
computer.
great.
All
There's
right.
up to 7 bids. We'll take it.
Saul S is your
Oh,
high bid.
good. Oh, we've got a bidding war. We've got Saul and Larry. These both sound like gentlemen who probably
Love
would like to own
Their
C4
Corvette.
Corvettes. Saul
Hey,
and
they're
Larry.
they're fine Americans. I don't care how many gold chains they have. They are about to get a hell of a deal, and they
I
deserve
hope-
it.
Oh,
they get
Debbie.
more, Judd.
Debbie also. We've had a couple bids.
Well,
We had
because they
Larry-
were
Larry's
like
had 2 bids. Yep.
really?
Debbie had bumped it up today, and then Saul's bumped it up again. So watch out. Here we
Okay.
go.
And what
That's
you
great.
may not know about this, dear listener, is no matter what, that car is gone. This is a no reserve auction curated by our friend Michael Deeb from Bid Nerds.
I want it out of my house. Actually, I mean, I want somebody to take it to their fun fall car show that they have on a lovely lawn for their high school, and it's a lovely fundraiser or something like that, and they could stand around and rub it with a diaper, and then they can just have a good time looking at it. Anyway, let's go.
You can totally cars and coffee this thing. It is nice enough to do that with, but you're
the spouse run down to the soft serve because it is just getting to be that kind of weather. Get yourself a nice chocolate malt, put on your warm jacket. Be awesome.
Corvette jacket. Make sure to say that.
You know what? If a listener buys this car, I'll send them that Corvette jacket I wore when I was at. It has a C3 on the back of it. That's not the point. I'll send you the Corvette jacket.
Still a Corvette jacket.
A free jacket.
Exactly, from High Plains Raceway.
And the car comes with a free tote bag that says Corvette on it too. So
bam, double branded Corvette gear.
Right? We might actually have more Corvette gear in the house that we can give away with it. We have a t-shirt too.
The Got Jorts license plate is optional, depending on the
state that you buy it.
Of the person that gets it depends on whether that is a good thing or not.
We're mocking this car, but it's for the price that thing is right now, even double the price. If you double what it is auctioning for right now, you're getting a really cool car with a really good history and really low miles.
Let's just sell it.
It's perfect for someone to have fun and tinker with. So anyway,
ready?
Bid early, bid often.
Ready? I'm going racing.
Lemons is returning to Elkhart Lake and Road America, and this is amazing. 142 cars.
I mean, people are coming.
Let's just say people are excited about going to Road America, right? Wow. That's amazing. And 18 of those are BMWs. Only 18. That's like 12%.
That's
well done.
Amazing.
Kudos. 5 Miatas, 7 Hondas, 2 Porsches. I mean, that would be, that's like a normal AER field of 35 cars. Is that? But no, there's over 100 cars more than that. So what did Eric say?
Oh, Eric gave us all kinds of content about all of the cars that are going to be there. It is a spectacular entry list. 2 Gremlins, 2 Cutlass Sierras, 2 Lincoln LSs, 2 Mark 8s, 7s, 8s. Sorry. 2 Triumphs, a Corvair, a 1950s Jag, a Tempo, a Fairlane, an Ambassador, a Bobcat, a Rover SD1, a PV 544, a Grand Caravan, a Chop Top Boxy Caprice, Lemon's first G5. Also, the Rambler returns with 6 cylinders for the first time in most of a decade, and there are 2 post 2000 cars debuting with pre-Malaise era engine swaps. So much.
He wasn't done. He added 6 cars in the field just raced at NCM, including one from Georgia. At least 2 of those will have done 3 races in 2 months: Autobahn, Corvette Museum, and Road America. 6 of the cars in the field have not raced since 2019 or even earlier, and one of them is a car that has raced with a different team in 2010.
Damn. Eric finished with, if you care about being competitive for some reason, don't know why you do that, but the entered cars have 24 overall wins, 23 Class B wins, 19 Class C wins among them. The only car in the field that has won any of the classes or IOE at Road America itself is the Racing for Nichols Olds Cutlass Sierra. Good for them. That's great.
Wow.
I love the race. It's a quality race when the number of Gremlins, Cutlass Sierras, and Lincoln LSs and Triumphs equals the number of Porsches.
Exceeds the number. Each of those exceeds the number of Porsches.
Right. That's great.
We also know that is so from Eric because there are so many stats in there. It's just wonderful.
Oh, yes.
Love it.
Indeed.
Okay, results time.
Lems is at the butt. Mental was there. He's judging butts. Man, that's a tough job.
You know what? Easier than you think.
Okay.
There's some damn fine butts.
Go right. Winner on laps, Perplexus Racing number 181 and an IS 300. All right. Winner Class B after 8 years in B, My Fair Lady Mopar in there, 300 ZX with a Mopar engine swap. Winner Class C, Smokey and the Bandit in a 77 Pontiac Transmero. All right.
Oh, okay. Do you want to jump in here, or do you want to say anything after, or do it all after we run through here? Okay. Our
Keep
choice
going.
was at Charlie's Devils in a 1977 Ford Mustang Cobra 2. Mental is
You
dancing
didn't have
if you
anything to
can't
do
see.
with that mental at all.
I
did you?
honestly, no, they themed hard. All the judges agreed on that one. It was a great car. I was so happy to see it back because it was there 2 years ago, and in the last 30 minutes got into a just, wrong place, wrong time, got really hardcore wadded up. And they came back with the entire theme, including everyone on the team dressed up like one of the angels, except for the one female member who was dressed up like Bosley. They brought
That's
the Motorola
awesome.
speaker. It was all fantastic.
Oh, good. Judge's choice went to Colonel Angus Racing in a bone stock.
Colonel Angus.
Sorry. 07 Ford Focus. eBay Heroic Fix went to Sorry for Party Champagne Showers. Oh, that's so sad. I didn't know that.
Oh, it was an epic tale of woe.
I saw a little bit of it, but not enough.
Heroic Fix was a nail biter because we had one team that had to go out onto the track Saturday at 1 a.m. To find the bespoke bolts for their shock mount that had sheared.
Oh no.
And we were fighting over who was going to get it. And it basically came down to, if the Porsche makes it back out, it wins. And on the last lap, they are frantically trying to get champagne showers out the door. So much so that they left the breaker bar that they used to tighten it down under the engine, which, as they were driving out, then grabs the water pump and alternator belt, throws it off. He has to come back around. And Dean is just going, "You've got enough for one lap. Go."
Wow. Wow. Shoot. That's a shame. All right, I got screwed went to Ranger Road Motorsports as their hand-controlled golf was unable to make the race after several veterans flew in from as far away as Alabama. Link to their page and a way to donate is in our show notes. And last for me is Yokohama Road Mangler Cup went to Prince and the new powertrain generation in their 05 Mazda Miata.
All right. Now, the regional award, which we called Welcome to the Party, Pal, was SoCal Vintage Trailer in a 2006 BMW 330xi, which everyone immediately said, "Oh my God, how cheaty is this thing?" And including the judges. And then we did a little digging, and it turns out, no, it really wasn't cheaty. It was an insurance auction. Tree had fallen on it. They didn't pay much money for it. They sold everything out of it, got all their money back out of it. Ended up doing a bunch of body work, made this car really, really pretty, wrapped it in lime green, and then painted a really nice rat fink on the thing. The body work was on it, but it was a family team and it was their first time on the track. So we got to talk to them a lot. And after the third time, we had them paint a Bob Ross on their trunk, which the mom was so not happy about because their car was very pretty. And now it's got this lovely expressive Bob Ross on the trunk lid. And then Sunday, the number 77 Mustang decided it was also too pretty and had a lovely dent on the door. So they by the end of the race, it looked actually like a legit Lemons car. So hence the award. The other award that Judge Jim Ballman came up with was The Price is Right. One of the penalties in memorialization of Bob Barker's, we had planned to make several teams reenact the scene from Happy Gilmore when Happy Gilmore and Bob Barker get into a fight. And we called the penalty Price is Wrong. And the first team that ended up doing that was the Wheels of Misfortune 101 Honda Accord. And they disappeared for like 2 hours. And what they brought us back was not just them videoing the script that we had written. What we got was a student art film that had perspectives and cinema mode and angles and editing and everything.
And they edited it all.
Oh my God. It was so well done. We retired the penalty. You'll never see it again. And Jim gave them the hockey stick and Happy Gilmore Bruins jersey that he had gotten. So they were just so awesome with that one. Halloween Meets Gasoline was the Backdraft Brigade, which is those LA firefighters in an '08 Mazda 3. They were in costume. They set the bar up. They were doing everything that those guys do all the time. They were a wonderful host to everyone in the paddock. But they, at one point, some children are behind us, and we keep hearing either a recording or a bad version of a cat meowing. And we're all getting a little irritated. We're like, all right, look, make the announcement about the feral children, because we're about to give them all Red Bull and see what happens. But we realize it's a setup. They've got a cat meowing, and then they realize their cat's in a tree. And then here come the firemen running over in their suits with the ladder, and they run up the tree and they rescue a stuffed cat because they were firemen. So they were in costume all weekend, doing great stuff, driving terribly. But we did find out Saturday night, because their suspension was, they had an adjustable rear sway bar, and one was set to max, and on the other side was set to minimum. So the entire car was horribly unstable.
Wow.
And he's underneath it Saturday, and he just starts shaking his own head going, I can't believe I did this. All right. So, but good guys, we kept throwing penalties at him, and they just kept leaning into him extra hard. And if you were there, it's to the shock of no one, but the index of affluency was the Argonauts Awful Space, which is Neil and Anton and crew in the 1956 Nash Metropolitan, which was themed as the Neapolitan. And Neil was going around giving everyone Neapolitan ice cream sandwiches. I think its fastest lap was like 3:45, while everybody else was turning 2:30s to 2:20s.
Wow.
But they were really happy. They broke the 4-minute barrier, and they beat a lot of cars.
Wow.
It was, yeah. And they even
first time out for that car?
No, I believe it's an old Overzet car that he gave to Neil, and now Neil is trying to get rid of as well.
Well, you got the IOE. Usually that's the reason to get the time to get rid of it after.
As he accepted the trophy, he said, there's a Nash for sale. Come see
pretty
me.
much. That's usually what happens.
So, but, and even then they had, we had one team that for a penalty, we made a group of drivers chase them waving dollars going, ice cream through the paddock. And Neil did that for us. So that well earned on that one.
Good.
Excellent. And if you guys have questions about the other ones, yeah, I think I talked about the judge's choice, Colonel Angus, bone stock Ford Focus. They were a no-show to their first race. So they finally got to this race, and they'd spent so much time prepping the car, which is hilarious because it literally was bone stock rolling around on all seasons, that they didn't theme. And Mom goes down to Hobby Lobby because it's cunnilingus. They grabbed a bunch of innuendo style stickers and just put it all over the car. So they did a really good, and we actually, they ran clean. We didn't see them all weekend. So that was really funny. And there's hopefully it makes the wrap up video, because Jim did a just hilarious entire bit about that, Yeah. You'll
got
see
it.
Yeah. Got it. Do you get the joke? Cause I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know either. That's okay. It's dead air, so I don't like it.
Okay.
Let's
on Mental's Insta about his bad Turo, Dan3 Drive said, when I saw you, my brain immediately went to Randy the Macho Man Savage. Yep.
Yes. But
his hair out.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Don't get used to seeing this hair. It has a 2-week life expectancy. It is going to be gone right before, the week before Halloween. You guys will not, this hair is not coming to New Hampshire.
Oh, what happened? Like you
have to
look.
Oh God,
serious?
No.
What?
No,
okay.
No.
It's
getting donated. I'm getting tired of it. And Vicky's got a very specific Halloween costume that this won't work for. As much as I just wanted her to dress up like, Johnny Depp's ex, and I could dress up like Aquaman and she could just walk around carrying a turd. But yeah.
Oh, well.
All right.
Keep going.
Chrissy doesn't get that, but our listeners absolutely get Johnny Depp's ex-girlfriend who was in Aquaman, Amber Heard. All right. Our buddy
You're
Jason
next,
LeDuc.
so you
I
know.
know, waiting on you here.
Waiting on me. What do you mean? Our buddy Jason LeDuc said, I'll be listening when we're talking about that. And everyone should check out Jason's new podcast, The Leader's Mindset. And a link to that is in our show notes. He is interviewing young entrepreneurs and business leaders here in Las Vegas. It's really, even if you're not in that space, it's good. It's real lessons that have been learned and can be applied by people who are doing stuff every day that you can take to your regular job.
Nick D 2012 asked why you ruined churro. Well, Jeff Wakeman commented on the Instagram jugs of Button Willow quality mutts, 12 out of 10.
On Insta, we got our new tagline. Dominic C said, I refuse to start making good choices when it comes to purchasing crappy cars. Doing stupid things got me this far, so it must be right.
It's an interesting
Hey,
concept.
make well-informed bad decisions. That's okay. Yeah.
Gentleman Dave added that, quote, as long as there is a version control in the spreadsheet and it's on a common share, nobody's got time to reconcile data when it doesn't add value to the final decision. Leave it to Dave to put an equation into making a bad decision.
There's not
He's
usually
had
too
a lot
many
of practice. So,
and there's not usually people making that many changes to the spreadsheet because you should, whatever. Ashley D said, like harm reduction strategies for addictions. And JPlaz 07 agreed, adding, I make informed bad choices all the time.
Finally, or not finally, Tim B said, Chris, don't you dare go throwing logic at this stupid hobby. That's not fair.
and finally, the crew from Savage Orchid Racing said, latest episode, I'm loving it. Also, hot off this recent win and drunk on purple milkshakes, Grimace is waiting for his interview invite. Have your people talk to his people. Us. Wait, did I just use parentheses? And I tried parentheses. Yes, you did. Parentheses.
That's so much.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay.
Grimace.
You know who's never drunk on purple milkshakes?
Yep, probably right.
Not. Yeah.
She does make her own ice cream though, and it's delicious. So
And
there's
for
that.
everyone else too. Yeah.
Right. Yes. She usually makes
Mhm.
Chris kind of likes just for him.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Okay. Hi, Mom. Oh, they're probably listening to this on the road because that's where they're out here. Okay. It's me time.
We're talking about learning to drive. We all had to do it at some point. It never goes perfectly well for anybody, that's for sure. So we thought we'd just have story time. How'd we learn to drive? Teaching other people to drive. We reached out to all you fine folks to see how you learned, and we've got some fantastic stories. So I figured this is going to be about half us and half all these great stories we got from other people. This is great.
Yes.
So yeah, who wants to
Well,
start us off?
Chris, I think you actually have the most interesting story of learning to drive.
Well, I mean, like everyone, I remember, in the 80s, it was very safe sitting in someone's lap holding the wheel while, they did the pedals while you were single digit years old. I also remember, learning how to shift with my left hand in various assorted cars my mom had back in the day. So that all worked up. But then I really actually started to take the wheel when I was 10 years old. And we were living in Germany at the time. And the car I was learning on was looking back at it now, I think like a 1981 Fiat Fiorino. Now, no one's ever heard of this. It's basically economy car in the front.
Mental is
I'll
Googling.
find a picture for it later because I guarantee you're not going to get exactly right. I'll find one. But it's an economy car in the front with like a box on the back. Like think like first generation Transit Connect, except if the box wasn't just high but also wide. Weird
and it's a car, so it's little.
Yes,
it's a little
front
car.
drive, like it's like imagine a Honda Fit front with a big box on the back is kind of like a modern equivalent to it. But these were kind of popular in Europe. Fiat made them, Peugeot, Renault, they all made them. They're nice city delivery cars. It was a lot like that, very similar to the one that
it was red. No,
it was red, and it was the window version. That's it. So it was 83. That one's got the back doors open, just like that, but red. Yeah. All right.
What did you put in the back of it?
My mom liked to go camping. Like we were touring around Europe, and Neither of
You
us
went
were very big at
camping.
the time because I was 10 years old. So we could
She's still
crash
not very
in.
big.
She's still not very big.
No.
Nope. So we could camp around places and that as we were traveling around Europe.
You just went camping and you didn't like buy random crap.
I don't
She
know.
likes random
She
crap.
sure she
so-
bought random. I'm sure she bought plenty of random crap. This is also like
It's like the
third-
biggest trunk ever. Like you could buy statues and put them in
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah, well, she found plenty of random crap while we were there. We
sure.
were there for a year. So anyway, empty parking lots, learning how to use a clutch in a 1983 Fiat when I'm 10 years old. That's kind of how it started.
You said it was right-hand drive.
No, it was left hand.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But he,
German.
I'm
like
sorry.
I had the same thing. Like when you
Okay.
were younger, your parents would have
Shifted.
you reach over and shift for them.
Yes.
Just usually because my dad didn't want to put his beer down.
But also you were in Europe. And so I just need to clarify because you have a better excuse of why you might have a right-hand drive car. So just
Sure.
sure I understand.
Yeah, no, this was the left-hand drive part.
Got it. Thank you.
So
'Cause
then when we were back here,
Yeah.
We had a house in New Hampshire that was down a whole series of dirt roads. Nobody ever went down these dirt roads. I used to tool around these on an old Honda CT70, Trail 70 back in the day that was held. If I knew what I knew now, I mean, how dangerous was this thing when it was at a C-clamp holding half the handlebars on and I'm just tooling around in this thing.
You're totally fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I had like a bicycle helmet on.
In the car?
No.
Oh,
on the
motorcycle.
the Honda scooter.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed
It's
the
a
transition. I
3-speed
apologize.
70cc Honda.
You remember that
little
thing
trail
Jeff
bike.
brought to New Jersey to
Oh
get
my-
fixed?
It was
Yes.
just like that, except it worked and it was an actual Honda one.
That's
So
terrifying.
I did a lot of that. And then I would also drive the Civic wagon that we had on the dirt roads and the very seldom used pavement roads. My mom would let me do that with her in the car to practice. So I did a lot of that. And then plenty of like parking lot stuff. So that by the time I got my permit, it's like, okay, and drove home and drove all over the place. And not long after I got my permit, my mom broke her leg while we were skiing while we were in New Hampshire. So here I am, 16. It's like, well, I'll get us home then. Thank you. So we did. So yeah, it was, I'm sure I stalled that Fiat a whole lot. I don't recall it, but it's an Italian car. It's designed to be abused. That's how it works. The Civic was great. My driving test was super easy. This is in Massachusetts in the mid 90s. I had to turn left out of the parking lot, go one block up, turn left, make a 3-point turn on that back street, and then drive back to the place. And that was it. Done.
No parallel parking.
No parallel parking. No back. I think
Interesting.
I performed adequately in the 4 blocks that the guy saw me drive. That apparently I was okay, or he just didn't care. But that was it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not the most interesting story in the world, but it was an unusual place and an unusual car for most people, and probably younger than the general population, but not necessarily than our listeners.
I think some of them have you beat, which is actually a pretty good leeway into. Do you want to read some of these? Because we got a bunch.
I'll take the first 2, and someone else
Sounds
takes
great.
a couple after that. Tyler S said his was fairly normal, steering in Dad's lap while he did the pedals, but then he mentions BMW Teen School, which is cool. We haven't talked about how we learned how to race. That's a different show topic. How'd you learn how to race?
But that was actually the teen school it's just a crash avoidance thing.
The
but
Street
that
Survivor. Street
Oh,
Survival.
Street
yes.
Survival.
But it just made me think of
is-
different show topic ideas. Anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
Wade M also learned with Dad in the stages, quote, I would have been in the 3rd or 4th grade when Dad let me move the shift knob in a 64 to 66 C10. I was 13 when we drove an aunt and uncle's truck down to check the mail. So pretty similar.
Want to keep going?
Yeah. Sure, I'll do one. I'll do one more. and then
Oh,
we'll
okay,
see
that's
what
fine.
you
I
do.
wasn't sure. I know. I just wasn't sure if we wanted to keep
DJ
going.
914, he learned the basics from tractors, then dune buggies and air-cooled Volkswagens, but his parents wouldn't let him get his license till he was 17. but he may have gone out late at night and driven the dune buggy to various places of questionable legality. So when his 17th birthday came, he grabbed the Honda Accord manual transmission to get his driver's test and passed on the first try. He said, I chose to drive a stick to show my proficiency, and apparently it worked. And I have seen pictures of Eric in his younger days driving basically a Beetle floor pan off a jump. So yeah,
You're sure that he was driving with proficiency, and apparently it worked.
It worked. Well, when you have a plethora of shitty little Volkswagens around and a farm, these things happen.
Sounds like a good time.
I like Greg O'Brien also took his driver's test in a stick shift. It was an Escort GT after years of go-karts and motorcycling, and then graduating to his dad's stick shift Jeep when he was 12.
Wow.
I avoided when I went to take my
youngos.
test. I actually had to borrow my grandparents' Celica that I used to drive around their yard when I was 10 under the, precipice. Oh, I'll move the car, Grandpa. And he knew exactly what I was doing, which basically meant I was going to drive around the yard for about an hour. And but I did that one when I took my driver's test because I didn't want to fool with a stick shift. It's a bold move. I like it.
I would have. My MG was stick shifted. I had been driving on my permit at the time that I got my driver's license, but the Honda Civic wagon was probably a better choice to take a driver's test in than the 35-year-old MG at the time.
I think it feels it depends on the tester. You get somebody that walks out and goes, "Oh wow, a 56 MG," then you're probably off to a good start.
I also think the emergency brake, the handbrake didn't work because it's never worked in the entire time I've owned that car. So that's probably another reason we didn't use it. I think that's kind of a requirement. I want to make sure that works. I think that was the thing. Oh well.
It's interesting because now Nick H is telling us the story about how his driving instructor slept most of the test, and then he got into an argument with the DMV when he took the written test on a driving test question. Quote, ABS was common but not required on most cars. GM still sold the Pontiac ABS Traction Control Montana at the time, and the exam asked, what do you do if you lock your wheels? Pump the brakes or keep applying pressure? After discussing internally, they had me answer what to do with and without ABS, and once satisfied, told me to circle B.
Nice.
Way to go. Take your test, fight the man. You are wrong. I am right.
When you're right, then like, okay, fair.
Yes.
Touche. Good.
So
all right, Mental, how about you?
Yeah. So, yes,
you started to tell us a little bit there. So
yeah, the driving the grandparents' Toyota around lawnmowers, anything. I begged for a motorcycle every year. Never did get one when I was a kid. I wanted one of those little Junior 50s or any of that sort of stuff. I do remember one of the times that my mom lost her license for multiple instances back when they wouldn't take licenses for that sort of thing. She had a moped. I would snag that and run it around town as much as possible. And then I remember I understood, I could recite what I was supposed to do to drive a stick shift, but it wasn't clicking in my head. And this was actually when I had my permit, and I could go through the motions and do it smoothly enough to make the car work, but I didn't understand it. And one time I was out with some friends, and they had what was actually my parents' Capri. They had sold it to them, and that is referenced like later in a comment.
Ford 2.8, Capri, like the cool rear drive Capri.
Yes,
not the protege based one. Okay.
No. This was the European Mustang, basically.
Yeah, and then they had the Fox body Capri, and then they had the front drive one. This was a good one
prior to that one. Yeah. And he needed it moved, so he gave me the keys, and I went out there, and that one had an RPM gauge. And I remember I was trying to be very smooth and letting the clutch out. And then I saw the RPM gauge start to flicker, and light bulb moment. And from that point, I never had a problem with that one. I, of course, was supposed to wait until I was 16, but yeah, there were probably times when I borrowed my stepdad's Pinto without his knowledge. So, yeah. And there's a lot of tales of cars that were borrowed probably when they shouldn't have been. But then I took my driving test. Went to the South Carolina, which you could take it when you were 15 and then drive from either 6 in the morning till 6 at night or during daylight savings until 8 at night. And then when you turn 16, it just became a regular license.
Oh, interesting.
They don't do that anymore.
No, they don't.
The one thing that I've never had problems with, parallel parking. I crushed that one right out the gate.
Why?
I don't understand it. I don't know why I'm good at it. It makes sense to me. You break the plane, then you cut the wheel back the other way and you're good. Yeah.
You know who else is really good at it? My car.
The car is really good.
We get hesitant when you just hands off the wheel. It says, "Are you ready?" We say, "Okay," and then it tells you we're on the camera, and it does it for you, and you're just like, "That's so weird." Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I said
one day you'll have to explain to your nephew. Back in my day, we had to do this on my
pretty
own.
much.
And he's gonna be like, "Okay, Aunt Chrissy, let's get you back to the nursing home."
It's gonna happen.
Yep. Mental, you're talking made me think of some of the ways I also, before I had a license, was learning how to operate at slip angles and in inclement weather. In that both of my parents would take me out in the snow in safe places to basically drift. So the 4-wheel drive Honda Civic wagon was an amazing drift car in the snow, because it would just light up all four and you keep it going, and you could just do these long, lurid, controlled 4-wheel drifts, and it was amazing for that, which I did well into my early 20s while we still had that car, because it was so good at it. And in college we would just do that, and no one could believe the stupid little blue Civic wagon was so good at just going sideways all of the time in the snow. And I did this in an E36 BMW with my dad, who had a very steep driveway and a lot of areas around his house with it was a nice neighborhood with very little traffic. So you could drive the E36 around there, and especially up this very steep driveway, I had to learn traction management to get the rear wheel drive cars up the driveway. And
momentum management, I reckon, as well.
Oh yeah, you'd get a good run at it, and that would help.
Mental, it's funny, as you're telling your story, I was thinking about all of the things that you wished you had and you wanted to have and you asked for, and it seems like you just got them now that when you got older. You wanted a motorcycle so bad, and you've had plenty of motorcycles, and you just
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I've made it most of the way through my high school envy car list. The only ones that I haven't had, I genuinely have not owned a Fox body Mustang GT, and I haven't had an IROC.
It's a pretty short list of things you haven't had.
Nope. Yep. RX-7, CRX-SI. No,
I haven't had a Lotus Esprit yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
Didn't want one of those in high school. Liked them. Didn't want one. Wanted the 928. But yeah, we know how that played out.
Yep.
And I'll probably still get another one and still won't learn my lesson on that one. Yes.
Well, stop buying $1,500 928s, and you'll be in better shape.
Never. I'm just going to be more informed when I buy my next $1,500. Yeah, 928. It'll be great. I like this one that we got from Uncle Dave, where he talked about driving his mother's 5-speed 4-cylinder Mustang in the Kmart parking lot when he was 12, because she was in there shopping and he was supposed to be sitting in the car listening to the radio.
That's awesome. I am excited that Judge Phil piped in here and gave us a story. He has a great
stories are always good,
right? I know. I'm surprised it's pretty short for a Judge Phil story. Shared a great big brother tale. When my sister had trouble passing the driving test, which was taken by the Coliseum DMV in the roughest part of East Oakland at the time, I rounded up a couple of friends and we drove like drifting, rubber burning maniacs in a 73 Fury and a DJ 5 male Jeep nearby to distract the tester from her nervous mistakes. It worked great. Would recommend. Yes.
That is
driving like a hoon in a DJ 5 is A, hard, and B, asking for a rollover. So,
Just a little terrifying.
yeah.
I'm sure
That
it
was
was
the
in
point. He was
great
trying to
condition.
he like get the tester to go, oh dear God, what are these idiots over here doing? So that, you know, his sister didn't have to sweat her test. That was just awesome.
That's so funny. All right, I'll throw out another one here. Another good sibling story. Cliff H said, I was maybe 12 when my brother let me drive a 64 Ford Custom 289 3 on the tree up and down the driveway. When I was 14 or so, I could drive the family Volkswagen van on the gravel road leading to our house. Cliff's cousin Lee drove his mom's Accord when he was. Do you know this? Is this your
I'm
story?
sorry. Yeah, I did. I put this. He was 14.
Oh, yes. Do you want me to keep
Sorry.
reading?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
It plays.
Cliff's cousin Lee drove his mom's Accord when the family had flown from Smyrna, Georgia to Naples, Florida. When he arrived, the family saw him pull in the driveway. They came out to meet him with his mom asking, "How the hell did you get here?" He simply replied, "I drove." Oh.
Yep. Like those kids last week.
Like these kids last week, which I feel like we need some cred because I guess I heard it on I read it on one of the news articles on my phone, but it was like all over a bunch of different places on the I heard it on the radio. They're like, "Oh my God, listen to the story." I was like, I reported on that last night. Thanks.
And Greg asked it something I did too. Snapper riding mower around age 10 and totally around that too. It's like the only that's a great way to get the kids to cut the grass. If they want to drive something, you can drive the
This
mower.
is what I did in Jeff's house.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, except you were in your 20s. So
yep. Yes. or older. Yes.
Or older,
late
right.
20s. Yes.
Yep. So yeah, snapper motor around age 10, wheelied awesomely. I agree.
Oh, wow.
On my front engine Craftsman 12 horsepower or 15 horsepower at that time wood wheelie, put it in sixth, dump the clutch, crank.
And those snappers were different because the snappers were actually rear engine. They were basically riding lawn mowing Porsches. Because I remember my family had the snapper with the tiller. We didn't have a wheel. It had the white tiller front. And my stepbrother had done me a bit of a favor unintentionally. Before I moved into the house, he had run over an outdoor spigot in the middle of our yard. And my dad, it took him till 2:00 in the morning to get it to stop spewing water up.
Oh my goodness.
So I was not allowed to mow the front yard.
I'm not surprised when you bust something when you are on a riding mower, you tend to not be asked back to said
Are you speaking from experience, Chrissy?
I am. Yes. Yes, I am.
I think I may have even started younger than this at my dad's house. He had a yard tractor, and there was the house we had in Weston had a fair amount of land, so that we kind of created a little path that would go from the front of the house all the way kind of around through the back of the side yard, all the way over to the backyard where you could go. And that was a great way just to keep me entertained. Here, go drive the lawnmower around.
My grandfather did the same thing. He went and found, because he had a fairly competent multifunction tractor, and he went and found a cheap riding lawnmower that somebody was getting rid of. It was just beat to all snot, took the blades and everything off of it, and basically it was my go-kart. And I just literally would just spend hours riding around their property on this thing. This is before I would get into the car. It probably made no sense how much fun I had doing that.
Yeah, Greg keeps going. He says a front end loader in cars at 12, garage built motorbikes, mini bikes, and go-karts at 13. First car at 14 was a vandalized Fiat 124 Spider.
Oh my goodness.
And driving the family business's truck crane Ford 800 at about 14 as well. Said, cocky little bastard that I was, I failed my first 2 road tests by steering with one hand and on the other time resting on the driver's door.
Wow.
And he didn't, but in my mind, he's like, "Hey, you got any weed?" And the driving inspector went, "No, be a lot cooler if you did."
There are so many stories here.
Oh, these are great.
Yeah. Wow. All right, let's keep going on stories because
Tim had the coolest grandpa. So growing Quote, growing up, my grandfather had an 85 RX-7. When I was around 11 or 12, he would take me to a parking lot and let me drive. I finally got somewhat competent and wouldn't stall. He let me drive on the back roads on our way to Road America for the vintage races. Still one of the best automotive related memories I have.
Wow.
That is
Nice.
just beautiful and wonderful. I know like all the safety people would start up with the, why do you think of the children? But you're right. That is just an absolute wonderful and beautiful memory. Chris, you talked about sitting on, the lap when, my parents would do the child exchange at the McDonald's in Commerce, Georgia. I do remember my dad letting me sit on the lap and drive his steer, the Datsun pickup, while he would work the stick shift and do all the pedals.
Yep. Chris G said, my dad found me a $2,000 1982 Toyota Tercel 5-speed in 1988. And he told me that was the car I was buying. I wanted something faster and automatic, but I was vetoed. My dad attempted to teach me to shift and did a lot of yelling. My mom took over and tried her best not to yell. I've driven a manual ever since. Yep. It's a good way to teach the kids. Just more yelling. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah. It goes back to the incident of some of you have never held the flashlight for your dad while he's working on the car, and it shows. And this era, I think it's gone for a multitude of reasons, and I'm not trying to make this a social commentary, but like the next one, Vince, who learned to drive on the family farm in a 73 Super Beetle around 13. Especially if you lived in a rural area, it was completely normal to start teaching kids to drive at 12, 13 years old, because they were going to have to learn eventually
in the rural areas, because they have to run the tractors and they'll run the trucks around the farm and stuff like that. And I feel like every rural area back in the day had a janky Beetle around, just because when it was, you'd put it in a field, right? It was not good enough for the road, but it would still barely run around. So, all right. Yeah, sure. That was when Beetles, you'd buy them for like $50.
Yeah.
They were
please
everywhere.
Take
50?
this thing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. This is a long time ago. $50 is
sure.
not what $50 is now,
I
but still
suppose.
there's a lot of 2-digit numbers. A lot of Beetles were bought for that kind of money.
Seriously.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
They were disposable.
All right, I got a good one here that Ashley D told a familiar tale. My dad was less patient than my mom, which tracks. He said, I didn't violate many traffic laws in the first few years after I earned my license, which also tracks.
That was a longer story and it was great, but yeah, then he got an RX-8 and it goes downhill quickly after that.
Tom L learned to drive a stick in college at an airport right before getting chased by security for distracting pilots. That's pretty much on brand.
That is like a total Tom thing to do. That's a great one. This one actually surprised me. Our buddy Jason H, who is today still a professional driver. Quote, oh, you're going to love this. I didn't learn how to drive stick until I got my CDL. Learned on a 10-speed Freightliner semi-truck. My left leg was sore for weeks until I got used to the clutch. You're right, Jason. I love that story.
Doing so well. Oh,
you were doing so well.
You were doing so
Damn
well.
it.
And all of a sudden you get blasted.
Doesn't
No,
matter.
right.
I've got the
You're back now.
recording. So yeah.
Good. As
Yeah,
long as long as you restarted it when you came back, that's good.
Yeah.
I got one too. All right. What else we got here? All right. Same lines. Michael K learned how to farm. Started with tractors and motorcycles all the way up to a 454 dually, which I bet that's pretty hard to stall, frankly, even if it was a manual. It's like, and when if it's not, nothing's really going to stop that. No,
it's hard to stall, but I imagine it probably also had manual steering and manual brakes.
Yeah, who knows? He said, by the time it came to getting my permit, the only thing I actually had to learn was parallel parking.
And look at him now.
Yeah. He's a role model to all the children out there.
To all the children.
Yes. And there is interest in stuff in here because we talked about the rural thing, but Tam, his dad, quote, brought me to Devon Avenue in Chicago. I haven't even driven there yet, let alone in a manual. Traffic and pedestrian pattern, 100% foreign Landanian, where the road signs and paint were only there for decoration. That's it. That's all. That's just there for decoration. But he got pretty good at clutch usage. And even to this day, he has no issue with an unsprung putt clutch. I feel like that's also similar to how a lot of us learned to swim.
I don't remember.
All right, throw them in the water. They'll figure it out.
I was 6 months old. We had an indoor
Yeah,
pool,
me
so they taught
too.
me how to swim real early.
I was going to the beach when I was born, so I feel like I was
Otherwise, I was
expected to
gonna
do so.
drown.
Yeah, pretty much.
You gotta learn. Yep.
So Chris was chauffeuring around his mom with a broken leg. Chrissy, did you ever have to shuttle? Because you're the oldest of a couple
I
siblings.
am the oldest. Yeah, do we go with my story?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I learned to shift. I didn't learn to shift. When I was little, I shifted my dad's Datsun 210. 80, I want to say 82. I was just looking at pictures before. It was early 80s.
That's about right. Yeah.
I think so. 8210 hatchback. It was gray, blue gray-ish. And it is
And then rust.
Rust. That's because we're in Pennsylvania. So I never drove on it. I never was sat on his lap to shift or anything like that. I just would shift up, the pattern, which is confusing now when you're thinking about it. So that's the only time I ever drove. And I feel after reading all of these stories about how young people were driving, I didn't get my license till I was 18. So I didn't drive before I was 18. I didn't attempt to drive before I was 18. So,
You were also at boarding school.
I was at boarding school. And my parents picked me up and dropped me off. I wasn't allowed to have a car while I was at school. So I didn't have a whole lot of reasons to drive. And then I had friends or boyfriends or people had cars whenever I was wherever I needed to go. So I always had people picking me up, drop me off. I got a ride when I was a day student with friends of mine that were going. They lived in my neighborhood. They were already going, gave her money for gas, and I went with her. So I just didn't have any desire to, like, everybody's like driving when you're 10. And like, when I was 10, I was doing all kinds of other things, and driving was not something that I was really interested in doing. So I didn't. It's probably my dad's car. No, it's not a hatchback.
Oddly enough, this is a Merle Marlin.
Oh, it is a hatchback.
Merle Marlin.
It's definitely not there.
Yeah.
But that's what it looked like. Yep.
Dad being a Datsun guy, I distinctly remember these cars.
Yeah. So I don't think it was a great car. I think it broke down a lot. I don't think it was good. And then the other car we had, the other option was the Cutlass Sierra. So also not a great car. So I learned to drive on a 94 Pathfinder, which made parallel parking interesting. I've definitely hit the barrel behind it. The person looks at me and says, "It's a big car. Just be careful next time." And then I passed. It had the tire carrier on the back as well. So it was a big car. I did practice a lot. My dad is watching me from the parking lot, and he says, "Oh," like to the other parent next to him, he's like, "Oh, she failed." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got it." Like, you should have failed, but that's okay. So, and that was in Norristown, actually. It's pretty close. We've gone there for probably other paperwork. So that's when I learned to drive. I have a more interesting learning to drive a stick story. So of course, all of the besides the Datsun, we had all automatics after that, Nissan Quest, and the Cutlass Sierra and the Pathfinder. So I learned to drive stick on. I'm probably told this story, but whatever. I learned to drive stick in the car that I bought. So my dad says, "Here's some money, either go to school or get a car." And I was like, "I'm just gonna get a car." And sorry. So I bought a 2000 Golf. really great purchase. I could fill a whole hour with the chaos that happened buying this car. So I drove to Virginia to buy this car. Did not know how to drive a stick, but sticks are cool, so I'm going to drive it. So I had my boyfriend at the time, ex-husband actually, drove down, and I think we took my parents' car actually down to Virginia, and he drove the car home. The car broke down on the way home. It broke down all the way home. So I ended up taking my parents' car for another couple of days. I drove the auto home. He drove the stick home. When I learned how to drive stick, we just went to the local high school parking lot and learned how to drive. The thing is that he wasn't a great teacher. So there are things that he left out that I didn't know until like a really long time afterwards, like neutral. So I didn't know that you could get out of the car, put the car in neutral, get out of the car, and it could still stay running. Just missed that fact. So I thought I had to turn the car off every time I got out if I just wanted to like check the mail, right? Like just, get out of the car. I also, and occasionally still to this day, like to put the clutch in unnecessarily because that's how I was taught. So it's really helpful to have a great teacher when you're learning to drive stick because some of those traits, skills die hard because they're kind of ingrained into your head until somebody tells you that's really the wrong way to do it. So yeah, that's about my story.
We it's not in this list, but Tracy Guadu told us the whole story about it. She had an automatic Corvette. She took it in to get it serviced. And then there was her ZR1 sitting in there in the showroom floor. And it was so pretty. She just had to have it. She taught herself driving that thing home, how to drive a stick in the rain on her way home from the dealer at night in a 600 horsepower.
That's more adventurous than a 2000 Golf, I assure you. It wasn't a great adventure.
And I asked you about having a chauffeur your siblings around because James M. talked about he learned to drive in a 1986 town car chauffeuring his dad and then took his road test and he passed that easily. Because it was a town car and anything you have to park after that is probably quite simple.
I do have two younger sisters. I did not have to chauffeur anyone around.
Nice.
Because when I got my license, I was basically out of the house. So I didn't ever, have the opportunity to need to go somewhere. I'm sure I drove them somewhere, but I was not normally the person because I didn't get it till I was later and out of the house.
The thing about not driving a stick, Ron B told us he didn't, quote, I didn't know how to drive a stick and brought it up the night before our first Lemons race.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Yeah.
Wow. Although then other people like Steve S said he learned stick on a 3-on-the-tree Ford pickup.
Wow.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And to this day, I've never driven an on-the-tree manual because didn't have those in my family.
Oh,
like nothing like it.
I
mean, like the cars my mom had growing up, she had a Volkswagen Dasher diesel wagon that was 1980. It was cream. It was terrible. And then a string of Honda Civic wagons, and that was pretty much it. My dad, as I always had vans. He always had Chevy vans, except for that brief fling he had with a K5 Blazer diesel 4-wheel drive that was supposedly cool, but it was like the worst car ever. And he traded it in 3 years later because it was so bad.
85 diesel
3 years. That's a long.
82 diesel K5 Blazer.
Just,
and then he
just
had
dump a bag of marbles in your intake. That's what they all sounded like.
Oh yeah. But he always had a truck and a car, and the trucks were the van, the Blazer, another van, and then a Mazda MPV 4-wheel drive. And then the cars he had, when I was born, he had a 450 SL, but had to sell that because here I am. And then it was a couple of different S-Class diesels, including one that had an auxiliary 22-gallon fuel tank in the trunk, so we could go 1,000 miles between fills.
Heck yeah.
Gas crisis, right? And then it was a string of Lexus LS 400s for years, or various
Just
Lexus
no
LSs.
Opportunity.
Right. So that didn't have anything that was even remotely resembling a 3-in-a-tree. I mean, I was jumping through the window of the S-Class like the Dukes of Hazzard when I was 5 years old. So, yep.
I never
Wow.
drove it, but my grandfather had a 3 on the tree Chevy, or I'm sorry, a Ford 6-cylinder pickup, and then I delivered construction supplies in a 3 on the tree Chevy pickup. And then when I was in Africa with the United Nations, one of their bizarro Japanese people mover vans that they had was a 5-speed on the tree. So they could just pack more people. So you didn't have to have a stick shift over there if you had it right here on the tree. So you and it was
Oh, I
just
wish.
the
How do you
Ferrari
explain that to
gearbox.
people that are listening to?
Oh, I think they got it from the
Okay,
noise.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. As long as we're clear.
Oh.
That's amazing.
Oh, the
But
tree.
there was a lot of people that talked about having big vehicles to drive when they were younger. Mike B said he, came to take his driver's test in the family's 12-passenger Ford Econoline van that he'd been
Heck
driving.
yes.
Yes. And quote, still amazed I was able to pass parallel parking exam in that beast.
Right. Even if you came close or hit something, they would have been like, you're probably not going to parallel park this. So you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this next one. Roger McD earned it. Saved my Bojangles paychecks until I could buy a 68 Opel Cadet wagon. Dad drove it home, asked me if I knew what the pedals were for, then gave me the keys and told me to figure it out. Oh my goodness gracious. We lived way out in the scrub palmetto wasteland of Central Florida, so there was nothing to hit. Good on you.
68
Yeah, actually,
Cadet
Good on
wagon.
you.
Yes. Oh,
That is awesome.
Actually, my ex learned in Montana when she would go out into the field with her dad as a early, he had a mining thing anyway, in a FJ40 Land Cruiser in the middle of a field. That's how she learned how to do the clutch. No one really taught her. She just kind of figured out in the field how to do it. But what are you going to hit? You're in an FJ40 in a pasture.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get the concept, if somebody can tell you what it's a little different if you're trying to figure it out yourself and you have the motivation to try to go somewhere. But like if you have to learn to go to work, it gets really old. Like I remember going, I'm sure also I told this story, but I used to go from my parents' house down like 3 street lights into a strip mall to go to where I was working. And the first couple times I had my car, I was like, look, I got to take the Pathfinder. And they're like, dude, you have a car out there. And I'm like, but I'm really bad at driving stick. And so, but I'm like, I have to go to work. So then finally they're like, okay, you actually have to take your car. So I take my car and I only stall about 20 times. And I'm like, yes. And then I park on a little tiny uphill so I don't have to reverse, so I can just roll back and then turn out of the parking lot. And I would come in and I would just be like, I'd be shaking. And they're like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I just stole my car like 25 times and I live down the street. And so then, okay, well, yes, only 15 times. And then I'm like, yes, only 3 times. That's how I learned drive
marked
stick.
improvement. That's fantastic.
I mean, yes, I eventually learned how to do it, but
you talk about, having a good teacher. Old family friend Tim R said, quote, Mental's mom taught me how to drive a stick in their 70s model Capri.
That is
not a
amazing.
joke. That is not innuendo. I actually remember that.
Wow.
Or you could be like Eric B, who said, I unfortunately had watched too many Fast and Furious movies and had no understanding of how the clutch worked. So I kept popping the clutch and stalling. And when I finally started rolling, I kept forgetting pull my foot off the clutch and be roasting the clutch a bit, though they lived on.
I feel this so hard. Eric
and
B.
He kept trying to upshift 17 times. Like 17 forward.
Bang, 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 bang. Right? You're like, why is this stick in my hair now?
And the trick to going really fast is to have one hand on top of the wheel and flex.
Danger to manifold. That's a good. Oh, that's good. Oh my gosh, this is great. What good stories here.
Yeah, thanks everyone for all these great tales.
We did. We had to edit several of them to get them to squeeze in there, but looking at it, it was like one person would tell a story which would remind someone else of another great story.
Yeah.
It was I enjoyed actually reading every single one of these and just chuckling. I was at work working on some of this stuff, and the folks in my office like, oh yeah, I can absolutely relate to that.
I actually think there's more that it actually didn't even make it in here because I was just scrolling through and think there's more. It's awesome. Everybody's got a story and most of them are pretty good. There's no like heartbreaking, sad stories in here. A lot of kids, a lot of driving when you're kids.
a lot of liberal borrowing of your parents' cars when you should have been sleeping and they definitely were sleeping.
How did you get here? I drove. Oh. Oh, that's not great.
Yes, it is. It is.
I know.
So
I mean,
great.
no. It's great that he made it there and everything was fine. If he crashed halfway through and then, caused a pileup on the freeway and now it's a problem. So we didn't hear any of those stories. So maybe those are still out there.
Statute of limitations is probably run on most of
yeah,
those,
totally.
Sure. Yep.
If you enjoyed these, go check out our Facebook and get all of these unedited versions because they are just wonderful stories.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Somebody's got something here. Besides, we probably should have done a safety tip on being safe while teaching other people to drive, but somebody's got on the spot.
I do. Let's each of us, if we were teaching someone how to drive stick tomorrow that was brand new to it, what is the one tip you want to give them?
Neutral exists. Here's what neutral. No, I'm just kidding. Just because that's when I learned.
Relax. You'll get it. So many tales of yelling parents, but then always my cool older sibling showed me how. Just relax. You'll get there.
I like that.
I think it's be able, before you really do anything, figure out how to, on a flat surface, how to make the car start moving with only the clutch and not touching the gas at all, to teach you how to modulate. Because too many people, once the car starts moving,
modulating the clutch.
Yeah, too many people, once the car starts moving, they just yank their foot off the clutch. Right. And it's like, well, no, it's not done yet. There's that whole pause thing you got to do for it to be smooth. And so I think that's a great way to start that. Low speed, not going to hurt anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I have so many. Every clutch is different.
Do some more. Every clutch is different.
Every clutch is different. And so shifting kindly is nice. So you don't need to do the bang, 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 bang. Trying to be soft on your shifting arm. We're thinking so much about your clutching leg, but like it's also you have to be soft on your shift. Your arm should not be bang, bang.
You're not
bang,
drag racing a DSM.
Bang, bang.
I think we all got video sent to us through various social medias of the tourist bus. Looks like it's somewhere in the Caribbean, where the bus driver is literally just taking two fingers and pinching the shifter.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like that's the thing because people are always thinking about you're thinking so hard about your leg that you forget about what your arm's doing too.
How many of us have been right seat in a car and smacked the driver who was on our team?
I have.
Right.
I was like, we are not doing this. You're bringing
Stop
the car in. Like that was not okay. I was like, I was on testing day. I was like,
right.
There's no reason for you to be bang shifting on my nice Honda Civic. What? No.
Especially this car has pieces of transmission that are unobtainium. They don't exist. Do not break them.
No, he almost had this shifter in his hand. Anyway.
Oh, well.
Were you just pointing out one or did you have other? Do you have others or you just?
Oh, that's great.
Oh, no, I did it to Jeff. He was driving like when he started, he was driving like he was drag racing his Talon. I'm like, what are you doing? Cut it out.
Hey, just because we've already did the show, don't stop sharing those stories on our Facebook. They're great. They're making other people laugh. They're giving soon to be instructors tips on how to teach their nieces, nephews, grandchildren, children.
So best tool to teach someone how to drive is a checkbook. There are people that you could pay to do this, and they do it every day.
No, I'm going to disagree. Create that bonding moment. Take them out to a parking lot. Have them drive around a deserted road. I'm not keen on putting them in your lap because airbags and stuff like that. But
It's not the 80s anymore, or 70s.
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for downloading us. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. Also hope you will join us in the world of driving, racing, building, and driving instruction, because everyone can teach someone to drive stick, even you. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. It's free. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating that's as good as learning to drive, and tell us why. I don't care how bad your experience was. Questions, show ideas, comments, thoughts, emotional outbursts, drop us a comment on any of the various social media things. Everyone Racers or everyone.racers@gmail.com. Text us 484-243-0455.
Got some great junk pictures this week of a bald all season tire. Quote, customer said they felt a slight vibration.
Awesome. Mental wants more junk pictures. Send them away. So thanks again. And until next week, keep the shiny side up. Unless you're stalled in the middle of an intersection trying to get to Salad Works, then just keep starting it up and keep going.